So my name is Olaf Grawert. I'm an architect based in Berlin, and I'm also the director of HouseEurope, which is a non-profit organization that advocates for a fair built environment. I think the fact that we work in all these different formats across the years, in all these different scales, is actually that we think everything can be an argument. So obviously, doing a building as an architect can be an argument towards architects. No, architects see it and understand it. A built building can also be an architect for the public. They go inside. So if you go into a building that has been transformed, people realize that actually it's possible to change a building, to make out of an office building a housing building, but also all the other formats like the campaign, the initiative, and the films. It's all tools to basically make an argument and speak to more people, because our goal is to reach as many people as possible and to tell not only the facts and the evidence. So you have certain groups that really believe in facts. They are very open. They are interested. They go to a lecture. They listen to the arguments and they take it. But you have everyday people who don't have the time or the understanding to go and learn the facts. I can also not understand what the doctor maybe would say in a lecture. But of course, there is a moment where we translate it into a language that more people understand it. So all the other formats are really attempts to make it more understandable for different people. Well, that's a very difficult one. So I think that actually a lot of people who do architectural exhibitions, they struggle a lot because you cannot exhibit the building. So we always try to bring the architecture into the exhibition, which is of course not possible because we are here in an amazing building. Being here is something else than showing a plan or showing also a photograph or a model. So I think that what an exhibition can do is it can address maybe the topics behind. Ideally, hopefully, it can make you experience kind of like the discussion behind. It is definitely a moment, and we experienced this because our exhibition changed drastically because of the pandemic. No, it was a crisis, and all by a sudden, even the moment of coming together was gone. Because I think that's really powerful. You go in an exhibition and you meet others in the show, and together you have this moment where you see it and experience it. So I would say, yeah, creating a moment together and also bringing something almost like an archive, bringing something into a space, a moment, a place that has really a power because people can speak about it. No, people will speak about the Mies van der Rohe show here and what they have seen. So it's actually really a door opener for many discussions. Well, I think when we say that we should design incentives and stories, I think it's actually an exercise of listening to others. I think so I've been part of many conversations, and then you sit next to someone who says, the evil developer. No? The architect said this a lot, no? Or this awful law, this legislation. If we wouldn't have this law, we could do better buildings. If there wouldn't be the evil developer investor, we could do different architecture. I think the moment you think of why is the person doing it, and you ask this question, and you go there and you say like, but why do you do what you do? They will tell you their story, their version, why it makes complete sense. No, so to give an example, pension funds. Every one of us pays into a pension fund. Hopefully, I wish for everyone to pay in a pension fund. So these pension funds, they invest in real estate. So you realize that actually the money you pay in your pension fund leads to new construction, leads to expensive apartments that pushes you out of the city. So you pay in being pushed out. I mean, it's actually crazy. But when you speak to the pension fund will tell you, but we have to do this because everyone who gives us the money wants to have a pension. So to them, it makes total sense. So if the person shares the story, you cannot say, well, you're an evil guy, because to them it makes total sense. So what we mean with incentives and stories is, can we better understand what would make them change? Like, so that they have an incentive to change? Can we discuss with them how to change, but also can we tell them the story of the person that is pushed out? Can we tell the pension fund that what they do is actually pushing those out to trust them? and what would it take for them to change? What would we have to change in the system, in policies or in behavior, so that the pension fund is not investing into speculative real estate, but is investing in renovation transformation? So, I mean, I think that this is also fascinating. So here at the World Architecture Congress, then like architects speak to architects, maybe to developers, no, a few, or and there's also different architects. No, there are like maybe ones that are more academic, ones that have like niche practices that are a bit more boutique, and then you have the architects who build the big skyscrapers. Um, Nevertheless, all of us are also part of society. So I don't think that there's like really this border to many things. We are all citizens. We all ultimately live in the city. So architects are definitely also all citizens. Some architects are also parents, and they are part of another group. Others are maybe dog owners. I'm a dog owner, so they are part of another group. So I think if we realize that we are not only architects but part of many groups, then there's a different understanding that we can also speak to another group about our work. I would make a difference, which is politicians. Politics is then, of course, something else because politicians represent society. They have like this double role. They want to be elected, but they also need to represent the people who voted for them and need to build trust. So I think stepping into politics is then becoming democratic. And it's not only about yourself, it's about the collective. And maybe that's something that architects could take on a bit more as a role, this collective responsibility, you know? Because in the end, you could say what we do is like health, education, it's a service to the common good. We cannot live without a house. We cannot live without healthcare. We don't live without education. So I would say we should not privatize the health sector. So why did we completely privatize architecture? Like where are the city planners? Where are the kind of like the architects who work on the common good of the many? Yeah. So I think the way maybe we instead of like speaking about architecture, which then is becoming very technical, we can speak about something where the shift is maybe happening already. If we speak about fashion, for instance, no? Okay. So I think more and more people realize that fast fashion is not the answer. So we understand that fast fashion exists because there are trends, and we want to. Nevertheless, more and more people realize that actually you can buy thrifted clothes and you can find a lot of value in the old clothing. No? So you don't have to buy new. You can buy old and you can adapt it and you can make it yours. And there's even another layer to it, which is instead of going to a store that sells 100 times the same clothing item, you find something that is very original. It also exists more often, but you feel kind of like connected to the piece because you feel the connection to this one object and to all the stories connected. No, so I think what it will take is a value shift culturally that people don't always want the new. So when we speak to the public, when we did a survey where we asked 8,000 people, do you want the new or do you want to renovate and transform the old? Most of the people said we want the new because only the new house can be our dream home. So when you ask them, but what is your dream home? It's a collection of all the images they find, maybe on Pinterest, maybe in social media, or maybe all the references they collected throughout their life. No, so one shift is the cultural one, making people realize that the existing can also give you the dream home, and it's not only the new, because the new also has consequences. The other side is more policy and system. We see more risk in existing buildings because until now it is just more expensive to renovate and transform. So as long as the banking system, we spoke about it today at the panel, as long as the banking system gives you cheap money for new build, but gives you expensive money for renovation and transformation, of course the everyday family will say, well, I take the cheap money. I will take the loan that costs me less. So I think there's the financial system that has to change this. And there's also the architectural system that right now treats the old as something that has to perform like the new. So as long as we do this, there's no chance for the old because it always has to compete with the new, although it has other values. Yeah, like the story, the history, like the embedded energy. I mean, you can then come with different arguments, but all the values that you have in an old building, the new build, it doesn't give you. Okay. So first, I think it's important to understand that we actually don't have a housing crisis. We have an affordable housing crisis. Like there are enough buildings built, but we cannot afford them. I think that Barcelona or Spain is a very good example. Like they built so much in the last years and decades, and nevertheless they have a huge housing crisis. Why? Because so many buildings they built are holiday homes, they are speculative, they are office buildings, so they are too expensive or they are empty. And then we also have the old buildings that are often broken and not renovated and not livable. No, I would say architects don't fully understand this. If you understand this better, and if you inform yourself, you can actually influence what you do. You can tell a client, well, look, there is financial programs for affordable housing, and you can also change what they want to build. Um, I think, but this takes knowledge. We also heard this today. It takes knowledge, and architects have to inform themselves better how to reach that goal. And I think then the top category, and then again, Spain is actually a good example, is social housing. But social housing is a political decision. No, social housing, we need politics to give the money. But then it's interesting that in Spain you have all this amazing social housing that is also great architecture. No, so I'm originally from Austria. Vienna is always named as a great example. It's great that Vienna builds all the city housing. I think there's also good architectural projects there. But I think it's really fascinating here that you have social housing that is also amazing architecture, fantastic typologies. And I think that if more societies, if more governments realize that you can build affordable social housing that is also architectural great, these buildings will last forever. And I mean, as House Europe, we are starting a new initiative which is called Right to Housing Now and Forever. So we start a second European initiative where we actually propose new laws that everywhere in Europe governments have the system to build more affordable housing now that stays affordable forever, because the problem is if ultimately we sell the affordable housing, it becomes expensive again. So I think that's also a responsibility of architects, but then architects as part of society, it's all our responsibility, architects as part of society, to push for initiatives and also to push the client to change something.
Excellent.